So today I just wanted to discuss what is happening with PSVR2 with the announcement of Beat Games, which is owned by Meta, by the way, so I don't know whether this is some sort of contractual agreement, but they are not going to be supporting Beat Saber, which is easily one of the most well-known games in the world for VR. There will be no more new updates and there will be no more new content, and the content is what keeps the game alive. And before anyone thinks I'm trying to hate on the system, I have put hours of my life, days, months of my life into trying to support this headset. I love this headset. I will support it until PlayStation just call it quits. We have to look at some facts at the moment that games like fast travel games, Mannequin, which was announced officially is coming to PSVR2. I believe it actually at a state of play didn't get a port to PSVR2. Dream's Frenzies, and I don't think it would have necessarily sat well on the system anyway, but that also got removed from PSVR2. And when we look ahead, I'm not sure if we're going to be getting any more PlayStation Studio exclusives for PSVR2. And then combine that with their recent budget announcement of their peripherals that have basically helped them make money. PSVR2 wasn't included in one of the slides, and to me that basically means that it's not making them money. We've seen constant price drops. It sounds like to me they've really tried to do some last hurrah to shift some headsets, but I just don't think it's working. And looking ahead, games like Forefront, which is coming from the same developers of Breach's Triangle Factory, it looks incredible. They know the player base, they know the ecosystem. They're not bringing their next game to PSVR2. And I just think like this might be the final year for the system, because we still got big games coming. You know, we've got Thief VR coming from Vertigo and Maze Theory. We've got Reach from Dreams, that's coming to PSVR2. We've also still got a really big one, which is Ace of Thunder. And there is hope that Resident Evil 9, which has been confirmed to have a third person and first person view mode, which means VR is definitely more likely. And we've still not heard anything about the VR mode for that, but I do know there was at least 4 or 5 months between Resident Evil 4 Remake being announced and the VR mode getting announced too. But they have figures with Resident Evil Remake, and you can see them in the game, that only over 200,000 people have played Resident Evil 4 Remake in VR, which sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. It's only like 2 or 3% of the entirety of the people who bought Resident Evil 4 Remake, and Capcom are going to see that and wonder, is it worth porting? I mean, literally that is going to be something of a passion project. You know, if you was a developer with budgets and people to pay, you're going to consider, do we do this? Is this more of like a nice thing to do more than something they make money from? It's just a worrying time. We've had 2.5 years of enjoyment out of the headset, but unless something new happens, or I don't know, Sony really get behind it, we might only really have a year left of enjoyment of PSVR2. And if you take into account all the negative traffic that has been associated with this headset since its launch, because I do feel, and I've said it before, that the price of it at launch was a really big no-no for many people, unfortunately, and they're probably the people who've never experienced VR. There might not be another one for the next generation. I just don't know what people are going to do. You know, I know so many people in this community who will not buy a Meta Quest, and they don't want to buy PCVR. They just want to live on the PlayStation ecosystem. There might not be any more VR with PlayStation. I think that's just a real possibility that we need to now start thinking about, because it's just not been a win for Sony, and it's such a shame. It's gutting. It's really gutting, because they're such a big player in the gaming space, and unless Nintendo take up arms, where do PlayStation people go? If they don't want to go for Quest, they're going to have to go for PCVR, and that's a massive investment. There's no two ways about it. As far as I'm concerned, you probably need to spend maybe £1,500 at least to get a decent PCVR rig, and then what headset are you going to buy? So yeah, you know, even though things for VR I think are actually looking pretty good outside of what's happening with PSVR 2, I'm just worried. I am really worried. Just made me want to make this video today and talk about it. I want to hear what you guys think. You know, I want to get some conversation going. We've got a petition that went up the other day that I shared on X to try and let PlayStation know, or Sony know, that we want some changes. But is it too late? Is it really too late? I mean, we never even got a PSVR Worlds. We never got a demo. People literally had to buy a game and hope it was good. There's no refund policy. The store's now getting crap, really. I mean, there's some terrible games on there at the moment. I mean, there's obviously good ones, there's fantastic ones, and I would argue that some of the best games I've played in the last 2 or 3 years are on PSVR 2, but they're just small in number. You know, like anyone who does the top 10 will always include Horizon Call of the Mountain, Gran Turismo 7, Resident Evil 8, Resident Evil 4, but I guarantee those 4 are going to be the games that people always go back to. And that in itself is a problem. I mean, the library on PSVR was amazing. You know, it was like a wild west. You know, they were just chucking money at it left, right and centre. We had so many great games. But I don't mean to bring it up again, but Astrobot not getting VR support. Why? Why didn't we get VR support? And I would only argue it's because of users. There's just not enough people picking up a PSVR2 and playing it. You know, it's just a scary time and not something that I thought would happen. To be honest, I still remember getting the PSVR2 and thinking this is going to be like incredible. But it has been an uphill struggle for everyone involved. Yeah, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. You know, what do you think of this situation? But I just want to reiterate, I'm never not supporting the headset. Yeah, every single review you ever see of a game that's multi-platform, I always include PSVR2. In fact, some games I do PSVR2 on its own and then Quest on its own to make sure that people who don't want to see any Quest content don't get upset. It's just sad to see what's happening.